Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be talking about my greatest sports memory. And this dates back to May of 1992. It was Game 6 of the 1992 Eastern Conference semifinals. And it pitted the New York Knicks against the Chicago Bulls. And it was really phenomenal, the fact that the Knicks actually pushed it to Game 6, let alone what went down in Game 6 is even more unfathomable. The Knicks shocked the basketball world by winning Game 1 of that series. A lot of people, I think myself included, had a Bulls sweep. I really didn't think the Knicks would likely win more than one game in it. They actually pushed it to 7 games, but going to Game 6, Patrick Ewing was somewhat debilitated for the Knicks. He was hobbling. He had some bad leg. There was something going on with him. He winds up scoring, I think, like 27 points, corralling like 14 rebounds. He had a kind of a demoralizing effort in the game before that, in Game 5, and there was so much pressure on him to perform. It's not even funny. Now, the Knicks, of course, they ultimately lost the series to the Chicago Bulls. They were annihilated in Game 7. Speaking of being demoralized, that's what happened with them. But in that Game 6 at Madison Square Garden that night in May of 1992, that is like a memory that will be like an indelible fixture to me, because that is just something that I probably will never see anything like that again. And in that game, the Knicks, I believe they were trailing the Bulls by 2 points maybe going into the fourth quarter. And the Bulls went like 5 or 6 minutes or something within the first quarter, that first 5 or 6 minutes, without even scoring a point. The Knicks, of course, played defense very tenaciously in that era and very passionately. Now in the NBA, a lot of times, no, you do, like if the Knicks or if any basketball team now presently were to do what the Knicks did at that time, and as far as defense, on many occasions they would be called for a foul. The refs were a little bit more liberal, of course, back in those days, and then in the early 90s or whatever, they were not really called, they did not call as many fouls, but now you can't really do a whole lot, and nearly as much in terms of the defense. John Starks, I thought, played Michael Jordan very well, exceptionally well, in that Game 6 at MSG. And the thing about it is, I feel like John Starks may very well have been one of the better defenders for Michael Jordan. Jordan looked like he was a little lethargic, a little bit tired. There's some speculation, suspicion that series that the Bulls just really weren't going all out and may have let the Knicks win at least a couple of those games. But whatever it was, the thing about it is the Knicks were not anticipated to go that far in that series, and the fact they even pushed it to 6 games was phenomenal as it was, and let alone make it go 7 games. At the end of Game 7, I remember there was like some memorable quote by Michael Jordan. He said something like, well, in the first 6 games we played their game, and in Game 7 we played ours. Which essentially that would sum it up, because in those first 6 games they were very defensive oriented. There wasn't really, I don't think, that much scoring in those games. They were all, from what I can remember, very competitive games. And then Game 7, especially, it was like from around the middle, maybe the middle of the second quarter, middle of the third quarter on, it was just like all Chicago Bulls, and they just played with reckless abandonment. They were making like their steals and blocks or whatever. It seems like I'm remembering Michael Jordan doing something where he either stole a ball or something, or intercepted a pass, and he went all the way down the court and he did what he had to do, or something similar to that, and he just did so much. It was like this one memorable play that he had in that game. And the thing about it is, Michael, when you talk about what the Knicks did in that particular game, Patrick Ewing also made 2 very wild, unorthodox shots. He had at least, in one of them, he had the back to the basket at least one occasion, and falling onto the ground. And to me, that is just something where we see the dramatics in that and that heroic effort by Patrick Ewing in that game, and what this was so monumental for Knicks fans. Even though again that the Knicks did ultimately lose that series, they won the hearts of New York fans at the time if they didn't before, because they showed so much uncommon valor and courage. They certainly were not intimidated by the aura of the Chicago Bulls, the seemingly invincible Chicago Bulls that should have defeated the New York Knicks in 4 or maybe 5 games tops. And there, who knows really what happened in that series in terms of why it went 7 completely. Did the Bulls get a little complacent and cocky? Maybe took the Knicks a little bit for granted. If I remember right, the Bulls did sweep the Knicks that seat in the regular season, 4 games to nothing, and it was like, I mean, there was no way the Knicks could even win. I mean, maybe they could win 1 game in that 7-game series, but not 2, and then for them to win 3, I mean, that was just simply mind-boggling. And John Starks played very well in that game. Again, really defends Michael Jordan very well. I think 2 of the better defenders for Michael Jordan all the time probably were Joe Dumars and John Starks. So there you go, people. That is my my greatest sports memory right there. The few of you that might actually be interested in actually hearing about that. So anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube segment. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.